You know, one thing that I think is so remarkable about entertainment are things that last and endure. And you may or may not know that I Will Survive is celebrating its 35th anniversary. And as you heard, please. And among the things Gloria told me backstage, which was very interesting to me, is that more than 200 people have recorded I Will Survive, but obviously the song belongs to just one person. There's no question about that. And it has inspired people in a remarkable way, which leads to Gloria's new book. We'll talk about that in a second. But let me ask you, essentially the first question I asked you when we met upstairs a little while ago. How did you, or did you know when this song was first presented to you, hey, this is at a different place, this is at a different tier? There was something about this song.
Absolutely. When I first read the lyrics, I recognized that they were timeless. I also recognized that they could be helpful in encouraging people through any kind of a situation, because they were at the moment encouraging me through a couple of difficult situations that I was going through that had nothing to do with unrequited love. So I felt other people would do the same thing, and I guess I was right.
And if I'm not mistaken, originally this was to be the B-side?
Absolutely. It was written, recorded as the B-side, and I took it to the record company to tell them, no, this is the song that you need to be promoting. This should be the A-side. And they wouldn't even listen to it. They wouldn't listen.
So how did they ultimately listen?
Well, they didn't listen to it actually until it started becoming a hit, because I took it along with my management team to Studio 54, the very popular DJ there, and he played it for his audience, and they immediately loved it, which let me know that it was a hit song, because New Yorkers don't immediately love anything. So when they took to it so quickly, I thought, yeah, this is it. I'm right about that. So we gave them a stack of them, and to the Richie Kazar, I think his name was, and he gave it to his DJ friends around New York. They began to play it, and then people began to request it in the clubs, and they began to request it on radio, because now they want to hear it on the way to work and on the way home, and so the rest is history.
Well, and the rest is not only domestic history, it's global history. Yes. This is the thing that's so interesting to me. As the song, you tell me, just traveled around the world?
Traveled around the world, was #1 in 5 countries at once, and then it just exploded everywhere. The song has taken me to nearly 80 countries.
Wow. I just think that's the most remarkable thing. A lot of artists talk about the first time they heard their own song on the radio. Was the breakthrough for you with this song when you heard and saw it played in a club, when you performed it live, or when you heard it on the radio?
What I was most elated over was first hearing it in public when I wasn't singing it, and that was in a department store. And I'm standing at the counter buying something, and I want to say, do you know who you're listening to? That's me right there. She was bouncing around to it, but she had no clue who she was serving at the moment, and it was just so hard. Trying to be humble here.
Let's backtrack just a little bit. If one were to give credit, who discovered Gloria Gaynor? It was a go-go dancer?
Yes. Yes, I mean, she's the one who really should get the credit, because she heard me singing. I was doing some shows, and I'd been asked to stay in a nightclub to perform every night. I'd been going around the country performing, and this one club owner asked me would I stay in his club. He had a group called The Radio that played in his club every night. My sister was moonlighting as a hat check girl there. And she said, if you're going to be stationary someplace, this is the place, because you're right in the heart of New York City, and the record company executives come down all the time. Well, this girl didn't wait for any record executives. She wanted to be a singer. She couldn't carry a tune, a bucket would help. But she wanted to be a singer, and she had a manager, and she told him about me. He came and saw me. He told a producer and brought a producer from Columbia Records down to hear me sing, And the producer eventually took me to Clive Davis. And Clive Davis is the one who listened to me sing and signed me to Columbia Records.
Now, Clive Davis didn't just listen to you sing once.
No. He had me do 3 auditions, 3 days in a row. I had to come back to Columbia Records and sing for Clive Davis. I don't think it took that long for him to determine that I could sing. I think he just liked to hear me sing. Well, let me get in these concerts before I have to pay her.
When did you know, and I think artists always have this different period of self-discovery. When did you know you could sing?
When I was 13 years old, because I was standing in the hallway on the ground level of an apartment building I was living in, and waiting for my friend to come out and play. And I was 13 years old, and my neighbor came down the stairs and leaned over and said, "Gloria, was that you singing?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "My goodness, I thought that was the radio." I thought, yeah. So I said, "Yeah, I think I want to do that. Yeah, I think I'd like to do that."
Wow. And now you've done it in the biggest possible way and all around the world. One interesting aspect to I Will Survive, and you changed one lyric.
Yeah.
What was the lyric that you changed?
The original lyric was, "It took all the strength I had not to fall apart." Yes? I changed it to say, "Only the Lord could give me strength not to fall apart," simply because it had come to be true in my life.
And was that a conversation with anyone, or you just said, "Look, I'm going to change this lyric"?
Well, it was a conversation with my manager, who was my husband at the time. And I said, "I want to do this. I want to let people know where my strength comes from, because without something immovable, unshakable, immutable to put your faith in, I will survive is little more than a catchphrase. You know? So I want to let them know where my courage, my strength comes from, what empowers me to survive. Only the Lord could give me strength not to fall apart."
And in a way, what you just said there leads us to this book, which is Gloria's second book. Yeah, please go ahead. And it's called We Will Survive. Gloria wrote her own autobiography a while ago. But what transpired here is that as the originator, as the person absolutely affiliated and associated with this song, people have come to you, and you tell me, letters, emails now, in person, and they come to you and they tell you these stories of how this song has been so unbelievably impactful to them.
Yes.
When was the first time that happened?
I've never been asked that question. I don't know if I remember that. Well, I can tell you that the first time I remember it happening was I was doing a radio show and people were calling in, and this woman called me and told me that she was having open heart surgery and that her husband had come in to the hospital just before she went in for surgery to tell her that he wanted a divorce out of the blue. Nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guess he figured, they're going to fix your heart. Let me just
break it a little more.
Yeah. So, but she said that right after the surgery, the nurse began to play I Will Survive for her. And it just really pulled her through. And she wanted to come down to the show. She was coming to see my show then. I said, "Yeah, please come and tell me, let me know you're there, and, so I can, just know that you're there and just give you a little hug and whatever." And she came in and she wanted to show me her scar. I'm like, "No, thank you."
And over the course, of 35 years now since the song first came out, I'm sure you can't quantify it, but you've heard hundreds of stories, thousands of stories.
So many. From every country that I've gone to. Like I said, I've been to nearly 80 countries, and in every single country, people have come to me with different stories, men, women, children, of different situations that they've come through the power of the song, I Will Survive.
And I mean, it's obviously beyond remarkable. When did you first start to think, wow, there's something with this song? There's something that clearly transcends just the song.
Well, I mean, like I said, I thought that when I first read the lyrics, but as time went on, the one story that let me believe that more than anything else was when I was in Italy, and I speak briefly about it in the book. When I was in Italy once, and I had changed the lyrics to "Only the Lord could give me strength not to fall apart." And this young lady came to me after this show, and she said, "Oh, I was supposed to go home this morning, and I missed my flight." And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She said, No, I'm not sorry." She said, "Because I think God made me miss my flight so I could see your show." And I thought, "Oh, that's really sweet." And she said, No, you don't understand. She said, "I've been really having a lot of problems lately, and I've been really depressed, and I was going home because I don't have any privacy here, so I thought I needed to go home so that I could commit suicide. But now that I've heard you sing that song, I know where my strength can come from, and I don't have to die." So then, seconds later, we were standing in a puddle.
Absolutely.
The two of us, because I was like really bowled over with that story. Really, and as you say, I'm thinking, wow. I mean, I knew that this song was good, and I knew that it was impactful, and I knew that it was, but my God, I never thought it would save somebody's life.
There's some anecdotes in the book, and I'll read one in a little bit. That's a very powerful story about people having experiences in their life, and then the song comes on the radio. Mm-hmm. And I always think that's the most amazing miracle. Maybe you're thinking about a song and it appears on the radio, or the particular song comes at just the right time.
Yeah, when you need to hear it. Yeah, there's been a few stories like that. People have told me stories like that, just when they needed to hear the song, it came on the radio. One young man that I didn't write about told me, because I didn't remember, or they didn't really know the full story, but he had stowed away on a ship to come to the United States, running away from poverty. And he didn't know, he was a kid, and he didn't know where to go in the ship. And he just went someplace where he didn't think anybody would find him. And nobody found him, but he was near the kitchen, which made it even worse because he's starving and he's smelling food cooking. But the cook played "I Will Survive" every single day, several times a day. And he said that's what helped him to make it through that trip, to get through, even though he wasn't eating. It helped him to get through that trip. It took him about 2 weeks to get through that trip. Wow. And get to the United States. But that's what made him, I was like, wow, I can't believe that.
Do you, having the faith that you have, at some point it must have occurred to you there was a reason that this song and you came together?
Mm-hmm. Well, I believed when I first heard or read the lyrics that it was an answer to prayer, because I had received a letter from my record company saying that my contract was running out, they were not renewing it. Then a couple of weeks later, I fell on stage and woke up the next morning paralyzed from the waist down, and ended up in hospital with surgery on my spine. And while I was there, I'm crying out to God and praying, where am I going from here? What am I going to do? What's going to happen to me? I don't know what to do with my life. And I come out of the hospital, thinking, okay, I've given it to God. I'm going to leave it with him, and I don't know what he's going to do, but he's going to do something, and it's going to be okay. And then days later, I received this offer from the record company to record a song, because their new president, who had come over from England, specifically wanted me to record this song. And I come out to LA and talk to the producers, and they say, this is the song that we believe we wrote, and we believe you're the one we've been waiting for to sing it. This is the answer to prayer. This is the answer to my prayer. That's what this song is to me. That's what it'll always be to me.
Here's just one anecdote from the book that I liked very, very much. And it's a story of a lady, hang on one sec, named Lisa LaShaw. And she tells this wonderful anecdote about how she's essentially getting her first job in a restaurant, and she gets promoted and she becomes the assistant manager, and she has this wonderful sense of pride. Wow, you know, she's kind of really moving up the ranks. And then she and the restaurant manager are in his car, and they're taking a drive to get supplies. And then the rest, you know the story I'm going to tell. And then the restaurant manager makes a really horribly inappropriate move, and things turn completely, and she sort of talks herself out of that situation, gets back to the restaurant, takes off her assistant manager's button, you know, puts down her uniform, and just walks out of the restaurant. When we arrived back at the restaurant, I left through the rear employee entrance. I had been an assistant manager for a little over 45 minutes. In that period of time, I'd experienced the elation that comes with accomplishment and the heartache that comes with betrayal. I didn't cry, I didn't call anyone, I just started walking, never to return to the restaurant again. A car pulled alongside me, or so I thought. I started to shake until I realized the driver was only trying to make a turn into the 7-Eleven parking lot I was now walking past. Her car radio was blasting, and Gloria Gaynor was telling the world that she would survive. If I didn't know better, I would have thought God had turned the dial to that exact radio station at that exact moment so that I could hear the message meant for me. I bought Gloria Gaynor's record the next day after receiving my final paycheck. I listened to her song for hours on end and finally came to believe in the words we were singing together. It had been my dining room captain skills that eventually gave me the courage to work with people in trouble. I became a therapist. I taught those in need that they could do something I myself had learned to do to survive. These are fantastic stories.
Yeah.
And every time you hear one, does it make you, I don't know, re-love the song again?
Yeah, I tell you, more than making me re-love the song, it makes me feel so much more blessed that it's called my song. Because to have the privilege to sing a song that so positively, always positively impacts people's lives, adds such meaning and purpose to my life. It's just amazing. It's an amazing privilege. It's an honor. And it makes me not wonder, what am I doing here?
That disco era was a pretty wild time.
Yeah.
And so you have the #1 song in the country, the #1 song around the world, and that's like a rocket ship. And how were you as a passenger on that rocket?
A little bit nervous, but not all that confident, but extremely happy. Very, very happy to be on that ride and wondering where it was going to take me. Very, very excited to see where I was going, what was going to happen with me next, what it really meant for me. And at times a little bit carefree, a little more carefree than I needed to be, but got off that wagon really fast. But yeah, it was exciting. It was extremely exciting.
Well, you make reference to it. I mean, was that a period of a lot of temptation, or what?
Oh yeah, there was all kinds of temptation, because when you're in that position, when you're in a position to be kind of exalted, and none of us really deserve to be exalted, because we all have gifts, we all have talents, we all have attributes, and if we're smart, we're sharing them with people all the time, and we should all be celebrating each other, really. But because it isn't that way, and the world isn't that way, then it is tempting. It is tempting to think that you're more than you are. It's tempting to take privileges that you shouldn't necessarily have. I have to say, and I'm very happy to be able to say, that temptation didn't take me very far, because I was raised in by a mother who was inundated with church, until she made a solemn vow that she wouldn't make her children go to church, so she didn't make us go. But because she was inundated church, she didn't know anything else. So she taught us the golden rule, and she made us live it, and all the other things that make for a person with integrity and courage and concerned about what you portray to other people, and that you be what you are portraying. So that's the way I've lived my life. And like I say, I kind of got wayward for a minute, but it didn't last very long, because I could hear Mom in the ear saying, "What are you doing? What's that about? No, get back." You know, yeah.
And you know what, almost certainly that contributes to the longevity, not just of this song, but of your own career.
Yeah, I think so. I really, really do think so. Because in the end, people want to follow and pattern themselves after things that they know are right, they know are good, they know are sound, solid. And I kind of think I got my feet on the ground, had them there for a long time.
No question about that.
Yeah.
During this kind of rocket ship period, because we're all fans too, were there people that you met or that you performed with where you thought, wow, I've made it?
Where I felt that I had made it?
Yeah.
I felt that I'd made it from the minute somebody paid me to do what I love to do. That was the meaning of success for me, being able to make a living doing what I love to do. And I encourage anybody and everybody to do that. Follow your passion. Always follow your passion, because life is too short to be miserable in a job because you're going to make money to buy stuff that's going to break down, and you're going to have to buy more, and you're not going to make you happy anyway. And you got to worry about somebody taking it from you and kids breaking in and place. It's really not worth it. It really isn't. So be happy at what you're doing. That's first and foremost, and everything else is just icing on top of the cake.
Now, this song obviously transcends the disco era, but there's a lot of artists, and you know this, hugely popular during disco, and then that ends, and they feel completely out in the cold. Did you ever go through a feeling like that?
No, I just went to where it was warmer.
And where was it warmer?
It was warmer in Italy, in Germany, in Spain, in Mexico, in South America, the Middle East, the Far East. Yeah, I went to all those places, and I loved it. In the book here, you curate a lot of stories from a lot of people, and there's a chapter that you write yourself, a little piece of leather that was well put together. Talk to me a little bit about that. That story is about my sister. I called her that because she wore a size 5 in clothing, which is tiny, at least by East Coast standards. 2 is tiny over here, but over there 5 is tiny. And she had a big heart, and not only a big heart as far as giving was concerned, giving of things, material things, but a big heart as far as giving of herself. She was a protector. She believed in rooting for the underdog, and not only rooting for the underdog, but helping the underdog. And she just was a sweet and lovely person that if you could be so down in the dumps because your whole family was murdered and your dog died and you lost all your money, whatever, she could make you laugh. And I loved that about her. And she just was my champion. She just thought I was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And she died the way she lived, because one Thanksgiving Day, she was on the way to the store to buy cranberry sauce that we forgot to buy every single year. And along the way, came across a neighbor who was on the way to the store as well. Kid runs up to the neighbors, a guy runs up to the neighbor and starts yelling with the neighbor. She continues walking, and when she looks back, the guy hit the girl. And she turned around and said, "What are you doing? You don't hit a girl. That's a lady. You don't hit a lady." And he said, "You want some of this too?" And he ran her down and started beating her, beat her down to the ground. beat her into a coma that she never came out of.
And you write about your sister. Mm-hmm. It never surprised me that Irma was able to survive the many difficult times of her life because although she was a small and thin person, she was also very fiery and tough. It's what prompted me to often say of her, she's a little piece of leather that was well put together. So whenever I'm going through something difficult, I think of my sister and sing our song along with another song the Lord gave me a few years later by the same name. Mm. The three of them get me through every mad, sad, or bad situation I ever find myself in. No matter what life throws at me, the one thing I'm sure of is that I will survive. What's that other song?
It's a song on the CD that accompanies this, well, that complements this book. It's my first inspirational CD. It's also called We Will Survive. And one of the songs on it is called He Gave Me Life. The original title of that song is I Will Survive. I changed the title of it so that people wouldn't think I was singing the same song yet again. But it is a beautiful song that came to me quite extraordinarily. And I recorded it. It came to me actually in 1984. And it's taken me this long to, well, I actually recorded it a few years later in Italy, but it never came here, so I've re-recorded it now for here.
You've obviously had an extraordinary amount of blessings, and you've endured tragedy as well. When something like this with your sister happens, what enables you to sustain your faith? Because I think for a lot of, for most people on a good day or on an easy day, it's easy to have faith. Mm-hmm. But when it's not easy to have faith, what enables you to sustain your faith?
I don't just believe in God. I've come to know Him. And I've come to love Him. I couldn't possibly love Him as much as He loves me. I can't begin to know Him as much as He knows me. But I've learned that it's impossible to love someone if you don't know them. You can love them to the extent that you know them. So I've read the Bible, I've studied the Bible, I've spent time, and I still read the Bible, I still study the Bible, I still spend time with God every day. And I know Him, and I know that He is the only one who knows me and loves me and wants only what's best for me. And with that, I trust Him. That's the main thing. I trust Him. And so when something difficult happens, I know I can trust Him and I can rely on Him. And He's going to be there for me through whatever I go through. I may go through something, but He is going to be with me every step of the way, whatever I'm going through, and making it a lot easier than it would be otherwise. I don't always understand God, but I always trust Him.
And have you always felt that way, or is that a faith you came to acquire?
I acquired that. I mean, it's grown with my knowledge of Him. It's very difficult to trust somebody you don't know, especially somebody says, trust me.
Right.
He says it a lot, so you got to get to know Him.
Do you think there's a particular way to come to know Him, or I would imagine that's very individual too, that people come to know Him in their...
I suppose, but the only way that I know to know Him is to read the Bible and study it and talk and listen. That's the hardest part, listening. It's so hard to listen to somebody that you can't hear with your ear. You have to hear them in here. That's because we're not used to that. And we don't really want to do that. We want to do God like we do our parents, run in and ask a question and then run out before He gives you the answer, and then wonder why you don't know what the answer was because you didn't wait to listen. You didn't wait to hear it. But yeah, you have to sit and listen, and He speaks. He really does.
We were talking upstairs about what a neat feeling it is when the book actually arrives, when you can physically, tangibly hold it in your hand. I could see you light up as we talk about that. You spent a lot of time picking these stories, contributing your own stories. When you got the book in your hand and you started going through it, what struck you about it? You're obviously proud of what you've done and happy with what you've done. Tell me why.
Yeah. I'm happy because I believe that it is going to help people. That it's not just, you know, like looking at television and seeing stories on TV and you're being entertained. It's not just entertainment. It possibly can be entertainment, but it's so much more than entertainment, because I don't think that there is anything more inspiring, uplifting, empowering than to know of, hear about, or read about someone going through a situation, a difficult situation that you are going through at the moment, but this person has already gone through and come out the other side victorious. This is a normal, ordinary human being. If they can do it, I can do it too. And then when you read about all these different stories, a lot of people have come to me and said, oh my, I really thought I was going through something, but wow, this is, and I know their story, and I'm like, yeah, your story is just as bad as this one, but somehow, when you read other people's stories, some of the stories to you are gonna feel like they're worse than mine. They went through something worse than I did, and they came through it, they got through it, they survived it, so I can survive too. If people can survive all these different things, me too, why not?
Couple of minutes, we're going to open the floor for questions here from all of you. But before we do that, are you sort of impressed or surprised at the capacity people have to survive? Is it more than you thought it would be as you came to review all these stories?
I am impressed. I am impressed with the different things that people have come through, like the woman who believed that her beauty was everything. She was apparently very quite gorgeous, and her face was a part of her job. Using her beauty was a part of her job. And then she had a car accident that literally ripped her face off. How do you survive that? But she did. She did. The song encouraged her. The song empowered her, inspired her, and empowered her, and she gathered her resources, and she survived.
What, and I don't know if this is something you reflect upon a lot or not at all, or you think about it, or certainly not take it for granted, it just is. When you tell a story like that, and there are several other stories in the book, there's something more than just the words of that song. Mm-hmm. It's the words of the song, what you brought to the words. Mm-hmm. But what is it that makes this song a touchstone for so many people?
Really? I personally believe that the song is anointed. And that simply means that God has placed His approval on it, and He is using it. I don't think it's me at all.
I'm going to agree with you 80%, because I think it is you, in that, as I mentioned at the outset, it's been recorded 200 times, but there's only one recording of it. So I think you have a little bit to do with it.
Well, I think I'm the chosen instrument. Because thank you, as the producer said, we believe you're the one we've been waiting for to record this song.
And I don't know if you remember, was it one specific session or a series of sessions recording this particular song?
No, just one session. And
was there any kind of direction? Hey, do this, do that?
Well, there was direction to sing it again. You know, the producer was a perfectionist, so vocally he was asking me to do things over and over again, because we did something on this song, and this was the first song on the CD that we did it with, and I did it so much to his satisfaction that he had me go back and do it on every other song on the CD. I wanted to kill him. but he had me do double every word on the song. In other words, you hear it, and as you hear it, you sing it again. They put the two voices together, and they say it makes it for a fatter vocal. It's done a lot, but not a lot of people can do it as quickly and easily as I did, according to him. Mm-hmm. And so that was one of the directions that he gave me, and that made the sound of the vocal, sound of my voice more powerful. I don't know if that had anything to do with people liking the song, because I particularly think that it was the words of the song that really get to people. But that was one of the techniques that he used, and as I said, he had me do that on the entire record. But I think that if there's anything in the vocal that gets to people, I think it's the fact that I felt and believed what I was singing. Wow. I think that gets across on any artist's performance. If you feel and believe what you're singing, then people are going to get that. And I think you did. Thank you very much.
50 years from now, mm-hmm. you and I probably won't be on this stage.
You think not?
I hope to be.
Yeah.
But this song will still be there.
Mm-hmm. I believe so. I believe so.
I mean, to create a bit of culture, a bit of art that
endures.
Endures. I think that's the coolest thing of all.
It is. It truly is. It really is a privilege. It really is.
How nice to have Gloria Gaynor here tonight. Our friend Ted has the microphone there, and if you raise your hand, he will bring it.
Gloria, I've always enjoyed dancing to your song. Oh, and every time I've done it, I've had a big grin on my face. But what I wanted to ask is, what did they want to put on the A side of that record?
It was a song that was very aptly named Substitute. That was it, Substitute.
And do you remember anything about that song at all?
Yes, that it was terrible. And I hope the writer's not here, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's funny. We have a person right here, or go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Tony Blass, and I also have been a huge fan. The first time I went to a disco in 1978, I heard your song, and it was very inspiring. I was wondering if you were aware, and if you intended, the first disco blended record is actually yours as well, from 1974. Never Can Say Goodbye, Honeybee, Reach Out, I'll Be There. Did you know that was happening? Did you intend to be part of that creation?
Yes, I did. The producer and Tom Moulton, the mixologist, and we came with that. We came together on that idea. Me, because I love to dance, and 3 minute 30-second record was never long enough for me. So when you strung the three of them together, you had, I think, about 12 minutes of nonstop music, which was great for me. The producers loved the idea as well, and especially when I said to them, you know that if we do this, that the DJs who are stuck in a booth for hours on end will play this record every time they want a break. They're going to play it more. So, yeah, so that was a collaborative idea.
Is there a longest version of I Will Survive?
There was a nearly 10-minute version. That's the longest one I know of.
Wow.
Hi. Thank you for being you. And my question is regarding the producers. You said they waited for you. How long did they wait?
They said they'd written this song a couple of years prior.
God bless.
Yeah.
You Ted towards the second row here.
Oh, you hold on. Hi, Gloria. Hi, Sam. I've been focusing on massage for years, and throughout the years, I sing and I write songs. It's been a long time since the show, and I'm going to do another show, and I've pictured this already. And whenever I picture it, I know that the first song I do is I Will Survive. Mm. And I may change the words a little because based on things I've done, if that's okay. But I have a question. I have two things. I have a question about what advice would you give about somebody getting back up on stage after a really long time? And you and I have a connection. One of my best friends for many years is Robert Boogie Bowles, who for now 28 years has been Smokey's guitarist. And before that, he's the guitarist on I Will Survive. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk more about that out of the book signing, but Boogie says hi.
What's your advice for people who want to perform on stage?
Make sure you still love it. You've got to love it. And whatever decisions you make in getting there, make sure that there are choices and not sacrifices, because most often sacrifices bring regret.
There we go. Up there.
Hi, Gloria. I danced a lot in discotheques in the 70s and 80s. I was many times in Studio 54, and I remember in Studio 54 a few times an evening it was I Will Survive, and usually it came up like at 2 a.m. in the morning, and it's such a sensual song, you know, that we started to take off, you know, all kinds of jackets and things like that. I remember it, and I was a lot in London, Paris, and because I was air hostess, so I was all over. And every discotheque I went, I Will Survive. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. We love it.
You're welcome.
Some gentleman over here.
Thank you. My name is Les Hawthorne. And Ms. Gaynor, I was curious because when they talk about the disco era, your song is always the bookend. That's the end of the disco era. I Will Survive. Now, how did you feel about that? Did you have any feelings about being associated with the end of the era?
I didn't have any feelings about being associated with the end of the era. What I had feelings about is it being called the end of the era, or the era ending the way that it did, because I've always believed that the era ending, or the genre ending, was something that someone chose to make happen, because it was an economic decision, because somebody's bottom line was being negatively affected by the proliferation of disco music. And I say that because disco music is the only music in the history of music that has ever transcended every nationality, race, creed, color, and age group. How? Thank you. How can you determine that such a music is insignificant, unimportant? I don't get that.
I Will Survive, if I recall correctly, is the only disco song to win a Grammy.
Yes, yes.
Where's that Grammy?
Sitting on my piano.
Okay. Yeah. That's a nice place for it.
Yeah.
It's not a question. Hi, Gloria. I was in New York to see you at the Hudson Society. Mm-hmm. And I just want to tell you, when I grew up in Israel, you were very famous, and you're still very famous. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to know if you ever been in Israel. And when I came back from New York, Sam was on the same flight, row 17, and this is the flight attendant.
Oh, well, there you go. Hello.
It's a reunion.
I tell you what.
Reunion.
So have you ever been in Israel?
Yes, I've been in Israel 3 times.
What year?
Wow. I don't remember I don't remember what years. You know, when you have a 40-year career, it's kind of difficult to remember what happened, when, and where.
So it's time to go again.
Absolutely.
There we go.
Absolutely.
Oh, we're going to go way over there. Is there any place you haven't been?
Yeah, I haven't been to India.
Okay.
And quite a few places I haven't been in the Far East. That's about it.
All right.
Hi, I'm Lily Steiner from Australia and an Australian fan. Did you ever get down there because you were unbelievably popular?
Yes, yes, I've been there several times. Yes, I have.
Miss Gaynor, my name is Marie Martin, and I want to let you know that this song has given me, and I know very many other people, a lot of strength. And it's a song that is timeless. So therefore, I think everybody, it just happens to hit them at the time that they really need it also. Now my question for you is, I think Sam kind of asked you this a little bit. As you were going along, were you like enamored by some of the other artists? And did you join in with them and just kind of feel like, wow, I'm with them, you know, or I'm up there with them? And can you tell us some of the names of them?
I've admired many artists. Most of my peers I really admire because most of them are talented and are to be admired. I can't say that I've been bowled over by anybody. The artist that I happened to meet and probably was most impressed with was Michael Jackson. It was great meeting him, great talking with him, and just seeing a couple of different sides of him, and that was really nice. But can't say that I was starstruck by anybody.
And our final question for the evening.
Good evening, Gloria. My name is Big Dave Burley, and I had a question. With the other queen, God rest, rest her soul, Donna Summer. Did you ever have any conversations, or could you tell us if you did, what that experience was?
Well, I've had quite a number of conversations with Donna Summer, and the one I remember most was one that lasted about 8 hours when she and I were on a flight coming back from Germany together, and I think that the passengers probably wanted to throw us off the plane because we never shut up from the time in fact, before we sat down until we got off the plane. We just had a really good time talking through that entire flight about every subject known to man. And yeah, I specifically remember that. I now do a tribute to Donna Summer in my show.
Gloria, it's been lovely having you here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been my great pleasure. Thank you all.